Silent Screams brings you 3 true KFC horror stories, real tales that will give you chills. It was late evening when Jennifer clocked out of her shift at KFC, eager to get home. The small-town branch had always felt a little eerie after hours, with its flickering fluorescent lights and the faint hum of machinery that never quite went silent. That night, though, something felt different. The air was heavier, the shadows in the corners darker, and the usual hum seemed to carry an unsettling vibration. Jennifer stepped into the break room to grab her things, her steps echoing in the empty space. She was the last one to leave, which wasn't unusual. But tonight, the solitude felt oppressive. She thought she heard a faint rustling noise coming from the kitchen, but when she stopped to listen, all was quiet. Dismissing it as her imagination, she grabbed her bag and made her way to the back exit. Just as her hand touched the doorknob, a loud clatter erupted from the kitchen. She froze, her pulse quickening. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling slightly. No response. She turned back and peered into the dimly lit kitchen. Piles of trays and utensils lay undisturbed, except for a single silver tray spinning slowly on the counter, as if it had been flung. Jennifer's breath caught. She hadn't seen anyone else in the building for at least an hour. Gathering her courage, she stepped into the kitchen to investigate. The smell of fried chicken lingered in the air, but it seemed sharper now, almost rancid. Her footsteps echoed as she walked past the prep station, scanning for any sign of what might have caused the noise. Then she saw it, a greasy handprint smeared across the stainless steel fridge door. The print was too large to be from anyone who worked there, and it seemed to glisten unnaturally, as though the grease was fresh. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice rising in fear. The silence that followed was deafening. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the storage room. Jennifer's heart pounded as she approached the door, each step feeling heavier than the last. She reached for the handle, her hand trembling, and pushed it open. Inside, shelves of ingredients and supplies loomed like shadowy figures. The light flickered weakly, casting eerie patterns on the walls. And then she saw it, a dark figure crouched in the corner, its back to her. Its limbs were unnaturally long, and its head twitched erratically as if sensing her presence. Jennifer gasped, stepping back instinctively, and the figure turned. Its face, or what was left of it, was a grotesque mask of decaying flesh and empty, blackened eye sockets. A guttural growl escaped its throat, and in an instant, it lunged toward her. Jennifer screamed and bolted out of the storage room, slamming the door behind her. She sprinted toward the exit, her legs trembling beneath her. Just as she reached the back door, she felt a cold, clammy hand brush against her shoulder. She spun around, but no one was there. The hallway was empty. Gasping for breath, she fumbled with the lock and threw the door open, stumbling out into the cool night air. She didn't stop running until she was several blocks away, her mind racing with the horrific image of the figure burned into her memory. The next morning, Jennifer called in sick. She couldn't bring herself to step foot back into that building, not after what she had seen. But what haunted her most wasn't the figure itself, it was the greasy handprint that had appeared on her bedroom mirror when she woke up. A week later, an overnight cleaning crew arrived at the same KFC to scrub the floors and restock supplies. The team, consisting of 3 workers, didn't mind the late shift. They'd done it plenty of times before. But as the hours dragged on, they began to notice strange things happening around the store. One of the workers, Miguel, was mopping the lobby when he heard faint whispers coming from the play area. He paused, thinking it might be the radio in the kitchen, but the whispers grew louder, more distinct. It sounded like a child laughing and calling for help. He glanced at his coworker, Erica, who was restocking the drink machines, but she didn't seem to hear it. Curious and slightly unnerved, Miguel approached the play area. The lights inside the tunnels flickered faintly, casting shadows that seemed to dance on their own. He bent down to peer into one of the openings, and his heart nearly stopped. A small, pale face stared back at him, its wide, hollow eyes filled with a malevolent gleam. Before he could react, the face vanished into the darkness, and the laughter stopped. Miguel stumbled backward, nearly dropping his mop. "Did you see that?" he asked Erica, his voice shaking. She turned to him with a puzzled expression. "See what?" she asked. But before he could explain, the lights in the entire restaurant flickered and went out, plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as the team scrambled to find their phones for light. Just as they turned on their flashlights, a loud banging sound erupted from the kitchen, followed by the unmistakable sound of metal trays crashing to the floor. Erica and the third worker, Jack, exchanged nervous glances before cautiously making their way toward the noise. As they entered the kitchen, their flashlights revealed a chaotic scene. Utensils were scattered everywhere, and several trays were dented and bent as if someone, or something, had slammed them against the walls. The air was ice cold, and an overwhelming sense of dread settled over them. And then they saw it. A figure stood at the far end of the kitchen, its back to them. It was taller than any human should be, its head nearly brushing the ceiling. The figure's shadow stretched unnaturally long across the floor, writhing as if alive. Slowly, it turned to face them. Its face was a grotesque amalgamation of features, as though it had been pieced together from several different faces. Its eyes glowed faintly, and its mouth twisted into an unnatural grin, revealing jagged, rotting teeth. The figure raised a long, bony finger and pointed directly at them. Erica screamed, and the group turned and ran, not daring to look back. They burst out of the restaurant and into the parking lot, gasping for breath. The cleaning crew quit on the spot, refusing to ever return to that cursed building. Later, they learned that the KFC had been built on the site of a tragic fire decades ago, which had claimed the lives of several children. Some locals believed their restless spirits still lingered, drawn to the laughter and commotion of the restaurant. But the hauntings didn't stop there. A month later, a young couple stopped by the KFC late at night for a quick meal. They were the only customers in the store, and the staff seemed distracted, whispering nervously among themselves. As the couple sat down to eat, they noticed something strange. The reflection in the window didn't match what was happening inside the restaurant. In the reflection, the restaurant was packed with people. Families were laughing, kids were playing, and workers bustled behind the counter. But in reality, the place was eerily silent. The couple exchanged uneasy glances, and when the man turned to look at the counter, his heart stopped. Standing behind the register was the same grotesque figure, its glowing eyes locked onto him.